Discussion. So Prayag was earlier destroyed by the Musalman invaders, and then they had named it as Allahabad. Now, again, the present Yogi Adityanath government has renamed it as Prayagaraja. So, Prayaga, Prakarshena Rupena Yaga. So, there Brahma did his yaga, the yagna or havan, whatever you tell, the big way is called yaga. So, that too, Prakarshena Rupena Yaga becomes Prayaga. So, that place was very sacred, and also because of the confluence of three rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. Saraswati is Guptagamani, so it is underground. You can't see that, but everything, all the three rivers, it has a confluence there that is called as Triveni Sangama. Sangama means confluence. Triveni means three braids. Generally, we can see the mothers will have one braid or two braid at the most, but you don't see three braids. So here, when Swami Vijnananandaji Maharaj was a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, was having his path in this confluence, he saw Mother Ganga coming up from the river and gave him the vision with three braids. Then Vijnananandaji Maharaj got the confirmation that not only Ganga and Yamuna comes and have a confluence, but also as a Guptagamini, Mother Saraswati, river Saraswati is also there. So we saw up till now. We shall continue. We shall proceed in pilgrimage with the Master. All of us can proceed now to that pilgrimage. The Master stayed at Kashi for 5 or 6 days and then went to Prayaga with Mathurnatha. He bathed in the holy confluence and stayed there for 3 nights. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa stayed in Prayag for 3 days. Stayed there for 3 nights. Mathur and all the other shaved their heads there according to scriptural injunctions. But the master did not do so, saying, "It's not necessary for me to do it." So Mathurnath and all others shaved their heads there in the holy confluence according to the scriptural injunctions, but the master did not do so, saying, "It is not necessary for me to do it." Now, if we go to different pilgrimages like Tirupati, Dharmasthala, a Shiva's pilgrimage, then Tirupati is also Vishnu's pilgrimage. Now in South Africa, they celebrate this Purtasi. So many people do not know what this Purtasi is here in South Africa. It exactly coincides with the almost, it is not exactly, but it almost with the Pitrupaksha. So Tirupati Venkataramana or Tirupati Venkateshwara or Sri Natha Vishnu came down to the earth. And then you know all the story, and he stayed there in Tirupati. So that occurrence, the Lord came down to this earth. that happened during this period. So they celebrate that with fasting, puja, vows. So that is called Purtasi amongst the South Indian diaspora, especially the Tamil speaking, Telugu speaking people here. They celebrate this Purtasi. So now it is the arrival of Lord Srinivasa Venkateshwara from Vaikunta to the earth, that too especially near Tirupati. We all know that story. That is celebrated here as Purtasi. So in Tirupati also, you have to shave your head once you go there. Then even some other places they have these scriptural injunctions that they have to shave their heads. Anybody, even male and female, everybody shaves their heads there. So then here Ramakrishna told that it is not necessary for him. So one thing we have to see it here, why do we have our head tonsured? So in the sannyasa ceremony, we do that as the tonsuring of the head is called mundana. So munda means head, mundana means to remove the hairs on the head. So now the hairs in Sanskrit are called as loma. Loma. So there is Eshana. There are so many Eshanas. Eshana means desires. So all the desires, as we are now discussing in Bhagavad Gita, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate, that all desire, a small thought, a small desire will lead to so many problems. We all know that too, especially it leads to the even the smallest of dwelling on the Vishaya, the sense objects will take us to destruction. We all studied in that Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha, Krishna, Lord Krishna is showing us how it can lead us to destruction. So even the smallest of the things. So one of the biggest desires, the other desires are there, Daraishana, then Putraishana, so many Eshanatrayas. So another Eshana, the desire is Lomaishana, the desire for hair on the head especially. So you may be knowing that in other animals, especially the peacocks, suppose you take in the birds or any other animals, the male will have some exotic features, some special features in the form of a beautiful voice or in the form of a beautiful feathers or in the form of so many other beautiful things they will have, even the fishes, to attract the female fish or female birds. So that happens only in the male. In the animal kingdom, you see that these animals, especially the males, will have some special features like that. We in our younger ages, we used to see the peacock dancing and we used to think something very special. It is there to pray to God or show to God, Krishna, and all those things were there. So when we study in the science, so it is told that it is just there to attract the females. So even the nightingale or the koel, it makes the beautiful notes in the morning or any time, sitting on the tree, taking the young or what you call tender leaves of the mango. If you take that, then it gets a beautiful voice. You take drinking that juice from the tender mango leaves, so it will get a beautiful voice and it will start making that so beautiful sound. We all very popularly know that kuhu kuhu, that sound of the quail. That is to attract the female bird. So all this there in the nature for the progeneration and continuation of the creation. But when it comes to human beings, they don't have any special features like that to attract. So now whatever is there, they have to make such things. So now both in male and female, they take so much of care to preserve their hairs on the head. And they make so many vinyasas, special styles, hairstyles, and make it look beautiful. Both in male and female, you can see they are taking care of the hairs in such a way. So the hair on the head, it represents the beauty to attract this body to others, other gender, or people, anybody for that sake. So that is used. So they have so much of fad and fascination and desire for the hair. They take, you should see in a day, in 24 hours, you can just count how much of time the generality of the population in front of the mirror. So designing their hair and oiling the hair and putting so many other things to look very good. And especially we have seen, I was living with the boys especially the youths, the adolescent boys in the institution there, Ramakrishna Vidyarthi Mandiram. So they used to have so many gels and so many other things to make the hair look shiny and so many other things. So there you can see the desire for the hair is too strong. So we have to give up at the altar of the Lord, at least not every day. For sannyasins, all the time we have to remove, that is mundana, removal of the hair to make ourselves ugly. So that gives us the beauty to our body and face to make ourselves ugly, not look good. So this system was done. So what is the significance behind that? How will that help you in spirituality? So this thinking of the hair, doing so many things, spending so much of money, you increase your body consciousness. The body consciousness become deeper and deeper. So that thinking that I am the body, I am the body. So in reality, we are the Atma Swarupa, children of immortality. We are Parabrahma Swarupa. We are Atman. But thinking so much of different, this is one aspect I'm telling, Loma Ishvara. So it increases your body consciousness. To remove that as a symbolical gesture. So the scriptures have asked when we go to such temples like or pilgrimage sites like Prayag, so many other temples, this custom is there. If you come to Tirupati, it is there. In Dharmasthala, it is there that to give up your hair. Even men and women, they remove their hair. So why should you? And that has become a very big business in Tirupati. So what will they do with that hair? Hair is a very dead cells and it has a lot of proteins. So they sell that hair to the company. They make so many cosmetics, and it's a huge business. They get earned that Tirupati and other this thing. They earn a lot of money from that. Whatever, that is a secondary thing. So, but does the Lord need our hair? The Lord doesn't need our hair. Then why should we have this practice? The practice is what do we do when we go to the temple or when we go to the Lord? The practice is that we have to give the Lord, offer the Lord what is the best. We take plantains, we take fruits, and we take coconut, we take so many other things, offer flowers, tulsi, bilva, agarbatti, all the best things have to be offered to the Lord. But generally what they do, if you go to the temple, they will have some set of things, especially for temples, offering to God. And what is that? All the rotten ones, useless ones, very old ones, they will keep there at less cost. People want to get it at very less cost. When they want to purchase for themselves, for their spouses, for their children, for their near and dear ones, they will give the best. They will spend any amount of money. But when it comes to God, when it comes to give to the temples, all pilgrimage sites, they become very stingy. They become very miserly. Why should we give something to God? Why should we offer temples? See, the priest asks money. The priest, you have to, if you give money only, you will give the prasad and other things. Well, we have the darshan of God. We have to give money. Why should God ask? So these things are, they're duping, they are this and that and this. How should the priest live? He has to work the whole day. He should get some remuneration to maintain his family. He too has a family. We don't think that at all. So he is to be maintained. His family is to be maintained. So we don't think that at all. And the temple has to be maintained. So many things have to be taken care of. Who will do all those things? When you yourself don't have the, what you call the nature of giving to the Lord, to the children of the Lord, to the maintenance, because thousands of people come to those temples. They have to maintain, they have to keep it clean. There should be workers. Then if you don't donate, if you don't give it, who will look after it? So, but when it comes to ourselves, to give our spouses, to give our children, to give our relatives, to friends and neighbors, we take the best. Then we don't ask these questions at all. We'll be so generous. But when it comes to God, we become so miserly. We never put out our hand in giving it all. So that Revered Ranganathanandaji Maharaj used to quote from some of the books. There is a genes called selfish genes. So that selfishness had gone to the level of genes. You can't give. Only you have something in return, then you give. Otherwise, we don't. So what will God give us back? Just for something, we just symbolical thing to show off to people. We take some things, color it with beautiful papers, colorful papers, shining papers, though inside it may be of bad quality. So the rotten bananas, rotten coconuts with less cost, we will give offer to God. So in reality, what has to be given is the best. We have to offer the best, the highest to the Lord. That is the reality. So in spirituality or in religion, we have to offer the best to the Lord. Now, what is the best in me? What is there other than the beauty sense? The best in me or in everybody is the sense of beauty. So offering the hair, not that the Lord wants your hair or anything like that. Is he bereft of hair, or the Lord wants your hair, or the money sold, they sell that hair to the cosmetic industry and some other industry, and even the artificial, they make the hair out of it. So long braids and other things they make out of it. So does the Lord need that money or those things? No, he doesn't need it. So when we give up our hair, that is, we are giving up the best thing in us, that is the sense of beauty. We are offering that. So we are losing our body consciousness. We are establishing ourselves with the Paramatman consciousness. So all these things in the pilgrimages, in the temples, all these habits, all these religious injunctions have been done with a very higher purpose. So at the ordinary level, we don't understand it. So when it is explained like this, why it has been done? It's been done to give up our sense of beauty, offer it at the feet of the Lord. So the best is to be given. So that is the reason why the sannyasins have to completely shave off their head. So to make themselves ugly so that they don't have the body consciousness. And just like the generality of the public, they don't want a family life. They have dedicated their life to the Lord. So it's to show that to the Lord that we have given up our beauty consciousness, which is light. We do that all our life. But for householders and other people, they can't do that. So once in a while, when they go to the pilgrimage, as a symbolical gesture, so they have to offer that. The best. Generally, we don't give our best to the Lord. We always give the rotten things and other things. So once in a while, this best, the sense of beauty to offer, they do that. So, but for Ramakrishna, he dedicated everything completely. His ego is obliterated. His sense of beauty, he would not even care for his face. He used to rub it for the sake of mother. So he had lost complete body consciousness. For 12 years, he did so much of rigorous austerity. 6 years, he didn't have sleep. So he didn't care for his body. So he has obliterated that body consciousness. So for Sri Ramakrishna, these simple things are not necessary. But for ordinary people like us, it is all necessary. That's why. So you have to think, you have to go to the deeper aspect, the spirit of it, all the practices. You have to read between the lines. So all the people who had gone to the pilgrimage, they bathed in the holy confluence and stayed there for 3 nights. Mathur and all the others shaved their heads there according to scriptural injunctions. But Ramakrishna did not do so, saying, it's not necessary, because that's only a just symbolical gesture. He has completely dedicated his life to Divine Mother, God. He has realized the end, everything, whatever by doing this, whatever we are to gain, all that is over. And he has got the highest sannyasa too. And Nirvikalpa Samadhi for 6 months continuously. Then nothing he has to gain by doing all these rituals. He has nothing to gain in this world. That's why Ramakrishna told that it is not necessary for me, for Ramakrishna, to do it. From Prayag, they returned to Kashi again because it's on the way. They retained because the railway line goes through that. So they returned to Kashi, where they stayed for a fortnight. Before, again, they stayed for a fortnight before proceeding to Vrindavan. The place, Mathura is the place where it is just 25 kilometers from Vrindavan, Mathura. That is the birthplace of Lord Krishna. In the jail of Kamsa, he was born there. Then from there, we all know the story. He was shifted to Vrindavan, Gokula. So he was brought up, he grew up in Vrindavan. All his sports of the Lord Krishna happened in Vrindavan. So Ramakrishna went to this place, Vrindavan. From Prayag, they returned to Kashi and they stayed for a fortnight before proceeding to Vrindavan. Mathur stayed in a house near Nidhuvan at Vrindavan. So if you go to Vrindavan, the place Nidhuvan, all those things are there. So Mathur made all the arrangements to stay just like in Kashi. They stayed near Kedareshwar Ghat. They hired a house and stayed there like that here in Vrindavan. Mathur hired the house near Nidhuvan in Vrindavan. He displayed his pomp as usual, the worldliness that he is like a king, all that because silver umbrella and mirror and the silver mace, and so just like a prince or a king, he displayed his pomp and power also there in Vrindavan as in Kashi. He would go with his wife to visit the temples where he offered a few gold coins as a token of respect while saluting the deities. Besides visiting Nidhuvan, the master paid visits to Radha Kunda and Shama Kunda. When I went to Vrindavan, I visited this and took bath also there. So there is two ponds, Radha Kunda and Govinda Shama Kunda. So they tell that there is a lot of story behind it to make that pond. And Radha, Mother Radha used to take bath and how it was created. There is beautiful story behind that. So, and even the Shama Kunda, Krishna used to take bath, and in the Radha Kunda, Mother Radha used to take bath. And how did that Radha Kunda happen? How did that Shama Kunda happen? There are special stories about it. If possible, I'll try to tell the story of that Radha Kunda and Shama Kunda tomorrow. And we also know about Govardhanagiri, Govardhana Hill, when Indra, the small letter god, demigod, or the king of gods, those demigods are small letter god, got angry with those people there in Vrindavan and Mathura that they were not praying or doing the Havan and giving them all that oblations. So Krishna told all those people, why do you need to give all those things to Indra? Stop it. You can work nature, or you can worship the nature. It's better to worship the nature. So he stopped that practice. So Indra got angry. He started pouring rain and thunder and so many other things to trouble them. At that time, when people were in trouble, then Krishna, as a small boy, lifted this huge mountain. If you go there, you can see that mountain, Govardhana Giri. So that mountain, because now due to the coming of lot of sand from Yamuna and other places, it is submerged. You can see only some portion. It looks small. It's quite broad. So at that time, Krishna lifted that whole mountain, big granite rock or whatever rock is there, the big mountain on his little figure like that. And he made all the cows, the animals, the people of Vrindavan, everybody to stay under it. And Indra's thunderbolt, the lightning, the thunder, and the rain, whatever rain, could not even touch or trouble the people of Vrindavan. So he protected them. So that Govardhanagiri, to visit that is also a part of the pilgrimage. So all these people visited. Ramakrishna also visited all these places. So the master paid visits to Radhakunda, Shamakunda, and Govardhana Giri, Govardhana Hill. Now ascending to the top of that hillock in an ecstatic mood. I think in those days they would allow you to climb that But now they don't allow you to climb. You can go and touch it. Nearby you can see it, but they wouldn't allow you to climb it. Now, then maybe they would allow that. So now Sri Ramakrishna ascending to the top of the hillock, the Govardhana, in an ecstatic mood. He heard of the eminent holy men of the place and paid visit to them. So this was the speciality of Sri Ramakrishna. As I told you, just like Ramachandra, the quality Prathama Bhashi, Mathura Bhashi, he himself would go in search of great people, good people. One thing to show us that we ourselves have to visit the great people, saints who are made a lot of good name by doing charity, highly educated people who are very good, so to meet them. So that is very good for us, ordinary people, to get that satsanga, all good charactered, good natured, saintly people have to be visited. So to show that tradition, Ramakrishna himself used to visit all these people, great saints, and other people who are well versed. Suppose now Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar was a great educationist and devoted to his mother very much, and he had many good qualities. But he believed in God, he was religious, but not so much like realization of God and all that things were in his mind, but he was a very good man. So Ramakrishna himself visited the house of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Like that, he used to go to so many places. Anywhere he finds that there are some great people, good people, Ramakrishna himself used to go there and meet them. So as I told you, one thing to show all of us to get into the habit or mode of visiting great people of good nature, good character, so that we will also receive that. Secondly, what was the important thing? To bless them. Ramakrishna's presence as Avatar Purusha, because of their greatness, the Lord should give them something, isn't it? As Avatar is to go and bless them in that way. So that was also one of the things, to bless them. So now, Ramakrishna here in Vrindavan too, he heard of the eminent holy men of the place, just like in Kashi, he visited Chamelipuri, he visited Trailinga Swami, and you know all what happened there. Now, even in Vrindavan, Ramakrishna went and visited all these saints. He heard of the eminent holy men of the place and paid visit to them. He was highly pleased to meet Ganga Mata at Neduvan. There was one old lady, very old lady, was staying from her childhood there in Vrindavan and worshipping Lord Krishna with the Madhura Bhava, as if she is the friend or a slave or servant of Radha, Mother Radha. So with that attitude, she was staying there. When Ramakrishna visited this mother, the old lady, her name was Ganga Mata at Nidhuvan. He was highly pleased to meet that because he could see that she had progressed very much in spiritual life. So Ramakrishna was very highly pleased to see her. He indicated to Hriday the signs on her person and said that she had attained, the Ganga Mata had attained a very high state of spirituality. So as soon as Sri Ramakrishna would meet them, he could understand, gauge what was their progress in spirituality. So now Ramakrishna was highly pleased to meet Ganga Mata at Nidhuvan. Why is that? He indicated to Hriday the signs on her person and said that she had attained to a very high state of spirituality. So having stayed at Vrindavan for about a fortnight. So what does that indicate earlier? So if we too progress sincerely, do sadhana sincerely, think of God, meditate on God, sincerely seek for his realization, then without fail, Ramakrishna will be visiting us always. The great Avatar Purusha will be visiting us always. We have to be sincere. We have to be doing sadhana, charity, good to people. If you are also developing those high qualities, spiritual qualities, qualities of charity, helping others, philanthropic nature, then what does this show? Ramakrishna is the avatar Purusha, Lord Narayana. Kali will visit you, God will visit you. You need not go running. Do the good things in your own house. See God in your own husband, in your own wife, in your own children, in all the servants, in all the people in and around you, and start serving them with this idea. And see, the Lord will visit you. You need not run here and there for the Lord. The Lord Himself will come to you and visit you. Not only that, He will bless you. So that you can find it here, Ramakrishna visiting those people, but also appreciating their spiritual progress just by looking at them and telling that he was very pleased. So if we to progress spiritually, do more japa, do more meditation, do more puja, havan, do more charity, help other people, always be kind, then without fail, Ramakrishna, the avatar Purusha, the Lord Narayana or Shiva or whatever you call, in whichever form you want, he will come, visit you, help you, and he will also appreciate. You will all tell other gods, other smaller gods, see how great this person has progressed in spiritual life, how difficulty he is taking all the difficult situation just to think of God, meditate on God. So he will visit you and he will appreciate that. He will like you, start liking you. So these are all the indication, isn't it? After reading all these things, seeing the nature of Ramakrishna, we should understand how God, in whatever form, if you are a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, you love Ramakrishna, then he will come in that form, taking that form. Or else, if you like Sharda Devi, same, nothing, they are not separate. And the same Ramakrishna will come to you in the form of Sharda Devi. If you like Gadadhar Vishnu, it's same Ramakrishna. He will come in the form of Gadadhar Vishnu. If you want Shiva, Shiva will come to you. So like that, Durga will come to you. So go forward in spiritual life, be sincere, then do good things as much as possible. Without fail, the Lord will come to you. Not only come to you, he will appreciate you. See, Ramakrishna is appreciating. And he was highly pleased. So the Lord will be highly pleased with you. So he was highly pleased to meet Ganga Mata at Nidhuvan. Nobody knows who this Ganga Mata is. See now, after so many hundreds of years, we are still thinking of Ganga Mata, knowing her good nature. Now you can understand the great teaching of Swami Vivekananda. They alone live who live for others. They alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. People who are living for their own selfishness, for their own enjoyments, people who live only for their sense gratification, just selfish life, even though they are living. They may be very rich, they have all the things in this world, even though they are living, they are as good as dead. Selfish are dead. They are living just a life of vegetative. But they alone live, says Swami Vivekananda, who live for others. They alone live. Even after death, even giving up after the body, they still live. See now, all these great people are still living. We are thinking of them, meditating on them. Why? They never lived for themselves, selfish ends. They lived for God, they lived for people, they lived for the country, they lived for the society. So be unselfish, start living for others, not for just your sense gratification. Then you see the Lord will appreciate it. He will come to you. He will like you. The Lord will start liking you. So all that you can see here in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. So he heard of the eminent holy men of the place and paid visit to them. They had not invited him. He himself, the Lord himself went there, visit to them. He was highly pleased to meet Ganga Mata at Nidhuvan. He indicated to Hriday the signs on her persons and said that she had attained a very high state of spirituality. Having stayed at Vrindavan for about a fortnight, Mathur and others returned to Kashi in order to see Vishwanath, the great Lord of the universe, adorned in special dress and ornaments. They stayed there till about the middle of 1868. After visiting Vrindavan again, having stayed at Vrindavan for about a fortnight, 15 days, Mathur and others returned to Kashi. Again, they came back to Kashi in order to see again, have the darshan of Lord Vishwanatha, the Lord of the universe, the great Lord of the universe. So, what did they want to see in him? Adorned in special dress and ornaments. So, on particular days, on particular month, there will be special decoration done to the Lord. So, they wanted to see that. So, they came back to Kashi in order to see Vishwanatha, the great Lord of the universe, adorned in special dress and ornaments. They stayed there till about the middle of 1868. The master saw the golden image of Annapurna during this period. So the golden image of Annapurna will be always kept inside and locked. So the Divine Mother Parvati or Durga, as the mother of nourishment, physical food, mental nourishment, spiritual nourishment, everything. So that temple is there in Kashi, Mother Annapurneshwari temple. She is the mother who is providing food, nourishment, wealth, physical, mental, all that thing, all the nourishment is given by this mother. So when Mother Durga or Parvati takes the form of nourishing all the living beings, she is called Annapurneshwari. Anna means food. Food not only for our physical body, food not only for our mind, food not only for our spiritual, every aspect providing nourishment is done by Mother Durga or Parvati, the wife, the consort of Lord Vishwanatha, that is Shiva. And then she is called Annapurneshwari. One, the mother, divine mother, who is giving us nourishment in all the forms, Purna, spiritual, mental, physical, everything, intellectual, everything. So that is Annapurneshwari. And Ramakrishna also had a vision in Kashi as the Divine Mother Annapurneshwari, nourishing all the beings, not only human beings, every beings, in all the ways. As I told you, physically giving the food. And now, at one place, our Shankaracharya explains what is ahara, food. We think that whatever we take through our mouth is ahara, food. But Shankaracharya tells ahriyate, whatever you take through all your senses, all the five senses, that is ahara. So through the ears, you hear so many things. That is also food for your mind. It goes to your brain, it goes to your mind, it gets registered. You smell so many things. So that is also goes and registers in your mind. Eyes, through your eyes, you see so many things and understand everything. They all are food, or whatever goes through all your indriyas inside, they're all food, different types of food. Not only the food which we take through our mouth. So that's why all that is given by the Divine Mother. That's why she is called Annapurneshwari, holistic way, in totality. All that she feeds us, nourishes us. So, and Ramakrishna had this vision too. So now Annapurna, that happens only during in Kashi, that golden image of Annapurneshwari will be brought out. I think there are photographs. I had got so many photographs. I had shared it, the WhatsApp and other different groups to our devotees. If you just type Google, the golden image of Annapurneshwari in Varanasi or Kashi during Deepavali, you can see that golden image photo will be given there. Even now, if somebody can do it, you can get it. So only during Deepavali, they will bring out that golden image and it will be worshipped. So since Ramakrishna was there, they planned in such a way that they went to Vrindavan, they went to Payag, and they came exactly during that period, during Deepavali, when that image will be brought out. Only during Deepavali, for a few days only, that will be kept out. So now, they not only saw Lord Vishwanatha bedecked and decorated in a very great way, the Lord of the universe, Vishwanatha adorned in special dress and ornaments, they stayed there till about in the middle of 1868. So the master saw the golden image of Annapurna during this period. That happens only during Deepavali. So Ramakrishna was there in Kashi, Varanasi during Deepavali also. So the master, now Deepavali is fast approaching after our Navaratri, I think it is Deepavali. The master, Hriday, said, met the Bhairavi Brahmani. We all heard about Bhairavi Brahmani happening there in Kamarpukur, how she got into trouble because of her vanity and ego and how she learned the lesson and then told bid goodbye to Sri Ramakrishna asking forgiveness. She wanted now not to get into this attachment and worldly things, but focus on spiritual life and go deeper. So she had come to Kashi and she was staying there doing a lot of spiritual practices. So Ramakrishna met her there this time. The master, they said, met Bhairavi Brahmani, the guru who had taught Ramakrishna the spiritual practices in Vaishnava method and Shakta method. So Bhairavi Brahmani, Yogeshwari, her name was Yogeshwari at Varanasi or Kashi. He went several times to her house in the quarter called the 64 Yoginis. If you go to Kashi, there is a place, the area, just like there'll be different areas in a city or a town. So, like the different areas are there in Kashi. That area, which is called 64 Yogini quarters. So, Bhairavi Brahmani was living there in a house there. So, Sri Ramakrishna used to visit her, the Guru. The Brahmani was living there with a lady named Mokshada. So, he went several times to meet her Guru. He had still that high respect. She had hurt Ramakrishna in so many ways, criticized him, denigrated him, but Ramakrishna never lost an inch or an ounce of respect to the Guru. So you can see all this. We have to learn all the great qualities. And he visited Kashi. He had not kept even a single thing of revenge or that anger. Sthitaprajna, realized soul, Ramakrishna. So not even a trace. He went there, visited her many times, paid his obeisance to her, though he is in all ways high in every way. But he maintained that humility. These are all lessons for us, how we should behave in the society. Do not keep all these things in our mind, jealousies, anger, hatred, then this feeling of pain when somebody hurt us. Forgive, 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 and go forward. So forgiveness is also a little low. But here, seeing the Lord, our mind set should be in a different way. So you can see, learn from Ramakrishna. He went several times to meet her in the house, in the quarters called the 64 Yoginis in Kashi. The Brahmani, her name was Yogeshwari Ma. The Brahmani was living there with a lady named Mokshada. The master was pleased to see the faith and devotion of that lady, Mokshada. So maybe it was also that great devotee or a great spiritual aspirant, Mokshada, was to be blessed by the master. That was also reason for Ramakrishna going there. The master was pleased to see the faith and devotion of that lady. Now the Brahmani accompanied, by the way, Brahmani accompanied the master. She had gone with pilgrimage, accompanied the master even to Vrindavan. So when Ramakrishna met her, then Bhairavi Brahmani accompanied them to Vrindavan also, where he asked her to live permanently. Then Ramakrishna asked Bhairavi Brahmani not to go back to Kashi. She has to permanently live in Vrindavan and continue her spiritual practice. Ramakrishna knew what is her future, what's to be happening to her spiritually. So our Ishtadevata was Lord Vishnu Narayana as Ramachandra, and also she had so much of this thing attitude. She used to look after Ramakrishna as baby Krishna. So Krishna was her, the baby Krishna was her ideal. So Ramakrishna asked her because he knew the future. The master was the Brahmani, Bhairavi Brahmani, accompanied Ramakrishna to Vrindavan, where he asked Bhairavi Brahmani to live permanently in Vrindavan. Now she passed away there shortly after master returned from Vrindavan. Ramakrishna knew that she will pass away. So he wanted that she should give up her life in Vrindavan. He knew that. So he told, do not go back to Kashi. Come to Vrindavan and give up your, maybe he didn't tell you to give up your life, but he asked Bhairavi Brahmani to stay there permanently in Vrindavan. So she obeyed. And what happened? The Bhairavi Brahmani who accompanied the master to Vrindavan, where he asked her to live permanently, she passed away there shortly after the master returned from Vrindavan. So maybe if you give up your life in Varanasi, permanent liberation, then no rebirth. Anything, whatever you have committed, you will get permanent moksha, liberation, whatever may be the amount of sin you have committed. But if you give up your body in Kashi, you get permanent liberation, no more rebirth. Maybe Ramakrishna intended that Bhairavi Brahmani was a great spiritual aspirant, the Guru. So she has to come down again to do some good works to the world. Again and again, she has to do some good work to the world. Maybe that's the reason why Ramakrishna asked to give up her body or go to Vrindavan so that she will not get permanent liberation. She will do some work. It is all my assumption. It may not be true. So the master, Hriday, said, yeah, we have finished that. She passed away there shortly after master returned from Vrindavan. During their stay at Vrindavan, the master had his desire. During their stay at Vrindavan, Ramakrishna had a desire. So you can imagine a realized soul, Avatar Purusha, had some desire. What is the desire? To listen. To listen to what? To the playing of the stringed instrument known as the Veena. So Veena, now that playing of Veena, that is a lute, you can see Mother Saraswati holding one musical instrument. That is called Veena. The next version, when it came to the hands of the it was invaded by Muslims, there were so many modifications done to Veena. It was made very light. So that is the sitar. It has become sitar. The original thing is Veena. So in the Drupad music, even now, the older form of Hindustani classical music, they use Veena. Since Muslim Islamic invasion couldn't penetrate deep and destroy all the culture in South India, the Carnatic music, the South Indian music, stayed as the traditional music doing the service to the Lord only. But here the Hindustani music, because of the invasion of the Muslims, came to the court of the kings and it was diluted. A lot of things were diluted there. The originality was given up. It was made lighter and lighter. From Khyal, the style of Drupad was reduced or lightened up to form the Khyal Paddhati. From the Khyal Paddhati, it was made more lighter to form the Tungri, Thappa, so many other lighter versions, the ghazals. All these things are the lighter versions of the Drupad. The original musical thing from the Vedas is the Drupad Anga. But in South India, that music was not at all diluted because it was always dedicated to the temple by the saints. It remained in its pristine way. Nowadays, due to the introduction of the Western culture, the movies, cinema culture, so many other, what you call this, Bollywood and Tollywood and other Collywood, so many other things are there, the cinema culture. So that also is gradually lightening up. Then it was long back, it was brought to the courts and Drupad Ang became the Hindustani Khyal Paddhati. Lightened up, still lightened, Tungri, Tappa, Ghazal, so many other varieties came up. That's a different thing. So now Ramakrishna wanted to listen to that original playing of the lute, Veena, which is played by Mother Saraswati. Even in South Indian music, that Veena is there in its original way. The music of the Veena will be very, very beautiful. People who have heard it can understand. Veena, even in South India, Veena has a little difference than the one in the Hindustani Drupadam, but the music, the sound will be almost similar. So sometimes that Veena of Saraswati or that old Drupadang is also called Rudra Veena. Rudra, Shiva used to play. And you know that Ravana also used to play Veena. He was expert in playing Veena. So many saints, so many people, gods are expert, just like Mother Saraswati likes Veena. Shiva also used to play Veena. And his Veena is called as Rudra Veena. That type of Veena is called Rudra Veena, used to play, used to like. So it so happened, Ravana wanted to please Lord Shiva. Because, he was egoistic. He tried to lift that Kailasa Parvata now in China or Tibet. So he wanted to lift it, he tried to lift it, and it was slowly, he was so strong with all his 10 arms and other things. He was trying to lift it up, shake. Then Shiva just pressed his finger like this, and all the hands of Ravana got stuck up under the Kailas mountain, and he had to struggle hard to come out of it. Somehow, by the grace of Lord Shiva, he came out of it. Then he was peaked, he was very much hurt. Then to please Lord Shiva, what did he do? He played Veena. How did he make the Veena? He opened up his intestines, stomach. He broke open his stomach, brought out the intestines. So with his intestines, strong intestines, he made strings, Veena. Then he played Veena with his intestines. So seeing is that Tamasika Bhakti, Lord Shiva was very much pleased, and he came and gave him the vision and blessed him. That's a different story. So Ravana played Veena, making through his intestines itself as the strings, stretched it, made the Veena, and played that Rudra Veena. So Lord Shiva liked Veena. That's called in Hindustani the Rudra Veena. In South India also we have this Veena. Beautiful music. If you hear that music, that sound itself, some of the great musicians used to tell that the great South Indian classical music, that is Subbalakshmi. So many great musicians, senior musicians used to tell God has kept Veena in the voice of Subbalakshmi. Such was the sweetness of her tone. So they used to compare it to Veena. So Veena is considered to be very, very great instrument, especially in the hands of Mother Saraswati. So now Ramakrishna had the desire. Even Vishnu also used to play Veena. Brahma also plays Veena. Saraswati, naturally, she plays Veena. Shiva also plays Veena. So now Ramakrishna, the great avatara, had the desire that I should hear Veena in its original traditional form, Drupad style. So you see the desire of Sri Ramakrishna here expressed during their stay at Vrindavan. Master Sri Ramakrishna had a desire to listen to the playing of the stringed instrument known as the Veena. But his desire was not fulfilled, as no Veena player was available there at that time in Vrindavan. Maybe it was only flute. Krishna liked flute. So there were maybe there were only flute players in Vrindavan. So there were no Veena players. Ramakrishna had the desire to hear. There were no Veena players in Vrindavan, or even if they were there, Ramakrishna could meet them. So will the desire of the great Avatar Purusha go? Will it be unfulfilled? No. Mother, Divine Mother will take special care to fulfill it, because he is Satyavakya Paripalaka. Whatever, whoever, even an ordinary person like you and me, if you follow the truthfulness, the Vrata, the vow of truthfulness for 12 years, Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, not only just telling the truth to through your words, but in deeds. What is deed? Truthfulness in deed, keeping up your time. Or if you give some word, fulfilling that words, doing things properly, on time, keeping that, maintaining the time, punctuality, all these things are truthfulness in deed. Then truthfulness in thought also. You should not be lying or thinking in double standard. You should not think something and do something, and you should not think something and tell something. So that is truthfulness at the thought level. So that's why always they utter the word in India, Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. Kaya means body. Vacha means the mouth, or what do you call the utterances, or the speech, at the speech level, body level, and at the thought level, Manasa. So now Ramakrishna was a Satyavakya Paripalaka. All through his life, he never uttered untruth. So any desire of that such person who are truthful, even ordinary people, will be fulfilled. Then can the desire of the great Avatar Purusha, Sri Ramakrishna, all through his life who had fulfilled that truthfulness, will go in vain? No, it cannot. So at that time in Vrindavan, no Veena player was available there at that time. That desire once again arose in the mind of Sri Ramakrishna when he returned to Kashi. So Kashi is the seat of the Drupad music, the great Drupad music. All the types of musics are maintained in Kashi. It's a very traditional place. Even now, you can get great Sanskrit scholars. Anybody who had to become great Sanskrit scholars have to go and get the certificate in Kashi. All learned people, if you have to establish your any theories, you have to go to Kashi and establish it there. Then only it will be having weight or carry weight. So even all great musicians, great grammarians, all in pristine beauty, original beauty, even now they stay in Kashi. So they were that Veena players in Kashi. Rudravena, Shiva, it's the place of Shiva itself, Kashi. Rudravena players were there. So that desire arose in the mind of Sri Ramakrishna when he returned to Varanasi. Accompanied by Hriday, Hriday took him. He went to the house of the expert Veena player in Kashi. Expert Veena player in Kashi. And what was his name? Mahesh Chandra Sarkar. So Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, whom Ramakrishna requested to play on the Veena for him. Now we should note, musicians, by practicing a lot of music in any field, whether it may be violin, whether it may be singing, whether it may be classical, they get a lot of concentration of mind. So it is Nada Brahma Upasana. It is the worship of the Lord. Music is the worship of the Lord through sound. The Lord in the form of the sound, Om, is Nada Brahma. The Lord Parabrahma in the form of sound is Om. So that every music, every sound comes from that Om. So if you worship, if you learn music and other things like that, any form of music, so that is Upasana, worship of the Lord in the form of sound, Nada Brahma Upasana. So they unknowingly, even though they may not be devoted to God, if you become expert in music, if you go deeper into music, you automatically get a lot of concentration and you go deeper in spiritual life too. That's why Swami Brahmanandaji Maharaj used to tell, it's very easy for real musicians, good musicians, I'm telling, intense depth, who have depth in music, it's very easy for them to switch over to spirituality because the mind is already concentrated. Just switch it to God, turn it to God, it's very easy. That's why many of the saints were great musicians. They realized God through music. So many great saints, Purandaradasa, Tyagaraja, our great Tulsi Das ji, and our great another, that blind singer, the great musician, our Surdas ji, Kabir Das, all they got realization by music. So many saints have got. So it's very easy, Swami Brahmananda ji used to tell. So it is nothing but music in depth, not the ordinary, the filmy music or the, what do you call, the lighter music or the rock band and all these things, which makes cacophony and noise. The classical music, in-depth classical music, it takes you to the Lord Omkara, depth. That's why there was this great Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, whom Ramakrishna himself requested to play on the Veena for him. So Ramakrishna is showing how great is music. By music also you can go deeper. The Lord himself is like to hear. If you are musicians, you can offer it to the Lord and the Lord will be pleased. Music means real music, not noise or some sound or cacophony. So Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, whom he requested, Ramakrishna requested to play on the Veena for him. Mahesh lived in the quarter called Madanapura in Kashi. At the request of Ramakrishna, he played that day for a long time. Ramakrishna heard that Veena for a long time on that instrument with great delight. Because now just think of it. If you are a great musician, you will be, for the sake of money, or getting name and fame, you may go and play and make people hear. But can you imagine if the Lord of the universe, the great Avatar Purusha, Gadadhara Vishnu, Mother Kali or Shiva comes to your house and tells, I want to hear your music. Please play on it. I will enjoy. What will be your fulfillment of your music after so much of learning for so many years? You have become an expert and you are just using for earning money, looking after your family, or getting some name and fame and medals and awards. That's all. But if the Lord comes and tells, I want to hear your music, I'm delighted, I'm very happy, and you start playing, what will be your state of mind? Just imagine how delighted you will be to play in front of the Lord Himself. I sometimes in some lecture I gave about the thing of our great Shahnai player. He was a Muslim. So that greatest of Shahnai player, he is no more. So that person used to go and practice in Kashi in that Bindu Madhava, Krishna's temple, that Balaji temple, and how the Lord used to come and hear when he used to play that Shahnai. Lord would be sitting there and hearing. And many other places, Krishna came to him and showed a beautiful raga on his flute, and he played it again and again, heard from that in the form of a child who begged in the train and other places. Lord Krishna came and he showed him a new raga. Then later on, he showed it to the great Chaurasya flute player. He learnt it from him. And that great Shahnai player was a Muslim. He named it as Kanai Rira because it was given by Kanaya, Lord Krishna himself on the flute. That raga is called Kanai Rira. And Chaurasya also made that raga popular. So he got it suddenly from the Lord. So like that Lord likes music. Now if you imagine, the Lord himself has come to that player, Veena player, and asked him, please play, I want to hear. What would be your delight? What would be your happiness? What would be your fulfillment? So practice music. It's very good. Lord loves it. So at the request of the master, Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, he played that day for a long time on that Veena instrument with great delight. As soon as he heard, Ramakrishna heard just the stringing, not the music yet. He has not started the music. He was tuning. Tuning, the string should be tuned, isn't it, properly? All that into that tune. Resonance, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, at one particular this thing, maybe at 440 hertz or 445 hertz. So to tune it properly, string it. So even when that tuning, they make that ting, ting, that sound. That itself, when Sri Ramakrishna, as soon as Sri Ramakrishna heard that sweet ringing sound of the Veena, just tuning sound, ringing sound of the Veena, Ramakrishna went into Samadhi. Nada Brahma, Parabrahma, Veena, Saraswati, Rudra, everything, they went into Samadhi. Ramakrishna went into ecstasy. Just the stringing sound. Sweet, as soon as Sri Ramakrishna heard the sweet ringing sound of the Veena, the master was in ecstasy. When he regained partial normal consciousness, when he came down to the normal plane, he was heard. Sri Ramakrishna was praying to Divine Mother. He was earnestly praying to Divine Mother, 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 please don't put me into Samadhi. I want to hear the music. I want to enjoy the music. Yes, Samadhi is still better, but I want to hear Veena from him. Please don't put me into Samadhi. Bring my mind down to the ordinary level. So he was praying to Divine Mother. Can you imagine this? Can you think of it? Just imagine the scenario there. He's playing, master is going to Samadhi. Immediately the ting sound is heard. He's going to Samadhi. Then he's coming to normal consciousness and praying to Divine Mother, Kali. Please don't allow me to go to Samadhi. I want to hear the music. As soon as he heard the sweet ringing sound of the Veena, the master went into ecstasy. When he regained partial normal consciousness, he was heard to pray to the Divine Mother, saying, Mother, Mother, give me normal consciousness. Give me normal consciousness. I want to listen attentively to the Veena. I want to attend attentively to the Veena, listen to it. Immediately afterwards, he was able to stay in the external plane of consciousness. Then after that, after he prayed to Divine Mother, then he stayed in the normal consciousness. He would not go to samadhi. So he could hear the music completely after that. I want to listen attentively to the Veena. Please, Mother, give me normal consciousness. Immediately afterwards, he was able to stay in the external plane of consciousness and listen to the music with delight. Now and then also singing. Now and then also singing. Ramakrishna also started singing. The Moola music come from Lord Shiva. Dance, music, everything comes from Lord Shiva. He is the origin of music. Veena, everything. And Narayana also expert. Vishnu expert in Mridangam and also music, Veena, everything. Saraswati is still expert in music. And now Ramakrishna is Sarvadeva Devi Swarupa. All that is there in him. Shiva aspect, Vishnu aspect, everything is there. So Ramakrishna also joined in music. So he prayed to Divine Mother, please make me stay in the normal consciousness. Mother, give me normal consciousness. I want to listen attentively to the Veena. Immediately afterwards, he was able to stay in the external plane of consciousness and later listen to the music with delight. Now and then also singing. He was also singing with the Veena. He was so happy, Ramakrishna, that made so by music, learn music. I tell all the people, please learn music. You can make the Lord happy. Learn something, harmonium, singing, tabla, mridangam, or pakavas. There was one pakavas player, a sadhu. He used to do his sadhana was only playing pakavas. He used to go to the Himalayas, tune that properly and play that pakavas. Dham, om, only om. Just one hearing, beating dha in pakavas. I have learned, I could learn pakavas in Belur Math for 2 years. And I used to play in the prayer hall to Ramakrishna's Arati. For 6 months, I could do that. I started learning because I had practice of learning tabla in Bangalore for 3 years. So I could pick up quickly pakavas within some 1 year or so, and I could play in Belur Math. So to Ramakrishna, I offered it to Ramakrishna. Just one sound, if you put that dha, it's om. So that sadhu used to go in Himalayas and just have that pakavas and play om, dham, dha, and play that to the Lord. Nada Brahma Upasana, that's all. That is his sadhana, enjoying the Lord in the form of sound. So many sadhanas are there. Music is one of them. The Lord, you can see how Lord is so attracted to music. That Bismillah Khan, I told that Shahnai player, Lord Balaji used to come and hear, sitting there. The music used to play Shahnai there, practicing Shahnai. And his uncle also. If possible, I'll bring that story. I have it. I had narrated it in some Gita class or somewhere. Or during Krishna Janmashtami, I had told that story. It is there somewhere. I can bring it and narrate it to you. How music can attract the Lord. Lord will be attracted to music. So learn and offer it to the Lord. It's so easy to please the Lord by music. So now Ramakrishna also started singing in delight with that Veena. That music form of the Lord came out. Immediately afterwards, after praying to Divine Mother, he was able to stay in that external plane of consciousness and listen to the music with delight. Now and then also singing to the accompaniment of the Veena. From 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. From 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. He spent his time delightfully there hearing that music. Nearly 3 hours. He spent from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. He spent with that musician hearing the music Veena delightfully there. When he was requested by Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, the Veena player, after the music, when he was requested to take light refreshments, which he did, Ramakrishna took refreshment. Generally, Ramakrishna would not eat here and there. He was so pleased, delighted by that musician. Whatever he offered, he took it. Ramakrishna took it and blessed him. So that musician asked him to take some refreshments. When he was requested by Mahesh to take light refreshments, which he did and returned to Mathur. Afterwards, he came back to the house. Mahesh used to come daily. After that, Mahesh Chandra Sarkar was very happy. to make the Lord himself here, the Avatar Purusha. So can he stay quiet? So after that, he used to come every day to the place where Ramakrishna lived and started playing the veena there. The master said that Mahesh used to come daily to see Ramakrishna there afterwards in Kashi. How much he stayed there in Kashi for many, many months maybe. And Mahesh Chandra Sarkar after that used to come every day and visit Ramakrishna, maybe used to play to Ramakrishna every day. So that was the charm of Veena. Charm of Veena. If possible, you can learn that music, Veena. So Ramakrishna loved Veena so much. And that musician used to come every day. Mahesh used to come daily to see Ramakrishna there afterwards. The master said about him, Sri Ramakrishna himself said about Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, what is that? He completely lost himself when playing on the veena. That Mahesh Chandra Sarkar used to lose himself while playing on the veena. And what is the essence of spiritual life? Perfect self-abnegation. What is perfect self-abnegation? Completely self-ego, I, the individuality, abnegation. Negation is removal, abnegation, thoroughly. So now while playing music, he lost himself. And that is the highest goal of spiritual life. By doing sadhana, what do? We remove our ego. If removal of our ego is the goal of spiritual life, essence of spiritual life. We develop our ego, isn't it? Our vanity, pride, and ego, we develop it. And we are spiritual beings, so much of ego. Where will be the Lord pleased? Why is Lord pleased here? He used to lose himself, his individuality. He lost himself in music. Ramakrishna used to tell that. So Ramakrishna said about Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, he, that is Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, completely lost himself. So now we can see that is true spirituality, losing yourself. So that's why in Karma Yoga, we forget ourselves. We forget our ego, our luxury, our selfishness in serving other people, the poor people. In the service of the poor people in Karma Yoga, we forget ourselves. That's why Karma Yoga is the fastest way of taking us to God. With the intention of serving the Lord in the form of the poor people, as Sri Ramakrishna has told, Shiva Gnane, Jiva Seva, seeing Lord Shiva or Narayana or Vishnu or Durga in every living being and serving them. You forget yourself. When you're serving others, thinking about others, welfare of others, you forget your own thing. So that is the highest aim of spiritual life, you can see here. So Ramakrishna used to tell about Mahesh Chandra Sarkar, he completely lost himself when playing on the veena. So possible to try to learn veena or any musical instrument thoroughly, deeply, and offer the Lord will be pleased and he will come to hear you. Offer it to the master, not for money. Okay, if you want to earn money, you can. Name and fame, okay, you can. But you can also offer to the Lord and be blessed. Mathur expressed his desire now to go to Gaya. After that, Gaya, while on the way to Calcutta, from Varanasi, while coming, before entering into Bengal, in Bihar, border of Bengal, we have this Gaya. Gaya Vishnu, Gadadhara Vishnu. Gaya Ganga Gadadhara Hari. So Mathur wanted to visit this place. Mathur expressed his desire to go to Gaya, the abode of Lord Vishnu. But as the master had a strong objection. Why? Because this body, this avatar has come from the Gaya. And if he goes there, the attraction to merge there in Vishnu, he himself is there. So he will merge and the avatar will end. That's why Sri Ramakrishna had a strong objection to going to Gaya. He gave up the idea. So Mathur gave up the idea and they came back to Calcutta. After this pilgrimage to the principal places for about 4 months, the master, according to Hriday, returned to Dakshineshwar in the middle of 1868. The master bought from Vrindavan. So we also practice this tradition of Sri Ramakrishna. What did Sri Ramakrishna bring from Vrindavan? The master bought from Vrindavan some earth and dust of of Radha Kunda and Shamakunda. From that place, from Vrindavan, he bought some earth, the dust. And what did he do? When he came to Dakshineshwar, he scattered with the help of Hriday a little of the earth and dust around the Panchavati, in Panchavati, where he used to do sadhana, and buried the remainder with his own hands in his sadhana cottage, where he used to do that. Cottage was there where he got that sannyasa. So he buried all that dust and mud bought from Vrindavan himself, remainder with his own hands in the sadhana cottage, saying, what did Sri Ramakrishna tell? This spot, it is Dakshineshwar and Panchavati and the whole of Dakshineshwar. This spot now becomes, from today, this spot from today is holy place like Vrindavan. So now I have bought all the holy place, mud and stone. I bought it from Vrindavan. I bought it from Kamarpukur. I have bought mud and things from Jairambati, from Belur Mutt. I bought it from the Amarnatha cave, the stones from Amarnath cave. So I bought it from different other places, all pilgrimages. Wherever I went, I collected it and I am keeping with me. So when our new temple, in the property where we are going to construct a temple for Sri Ramakrishna, I want to put them all in the altar. So as Sri Ramakrishna is told that since he buried that dust and scattered that dust and mud of Vrindavan in the Dakshineshwar, especially in Panchavati, and then he proclaimed the sadhana cottage, saying, this spot becomes from today, this spot will become from today a holy place like Vrindavan. Now, if that is the case, I have collected from Kamarpukur, Jairambati, Amarnatha cave, Vrindavan, Kashi, all the places, from Prayag, everywhere, Belur Mutt. So I will go to, if possible, I will go to Ayodhya and bring the mud from Ayodhya also. Then we will be placing that in the altar in the new place here in Johannesburg. That place also will be vibrant like all these pilgrimages. So we are in the process. Our Corona Mataji has stopped all the work. With the grace of Sharda Mataji, again it will start maybe after a few more months. So then we are ready to install all these things. So now this spot becomes from today a holy place like Vrindavan. He requested Mathur shortly afterwards to invite Vaishnava Charan. Sorry, not Vaishnava Charan. Invite Vaishnava teachers and devotees from various places. They came and the master celebrated a festival at the Panchavati. Mathur paid 16 rupees to each Vaishnava teacher and 1 rupee to each devotee at the time of festival, thus showing respect for them. Now, he had gone to Vrindavan and he has placed the dust and everything of Vrindavan, and he has bought the devotees of Vishnu and celebrated that with bhajans and also feeding them and giving them dakshina, giving them money to all the Vaishnava teachers and 1 rupee to all the devotees there at the time of farewell, thus showing his respect for them. So you should note that after doing his Madhura Bhava sadhana and having the vision of Mother Radha and Krishna, then after that he had a vision. He was in that state for a long time, and at the end of that Madhura Bhava, he had the vision where a stream of light went from the feet of Lord Krishna. It touched his heart and it went and touched the Bhagavata, the scriptural book. So after that, every time he used to go to any bhajan or kirtan or sankirtan party satsang, used to be always repeating Bhakta, Bhagavata, Bhagavan, Bhagavan, Bhakta, Bhagavata. Means they are one and the same. The Lord and the scriptures and the devotees, they are one and the same. So after making that place Vrindavan, converting it into the like a spot like Vrindavan. So he brought all the devotees, the Vaishnavas, made them sing bhajans, and also fed them, telling that the devotees, the scriptural teachers, the scripture are nothing but Bhagavan, the Lord Himself. So Ramakrishna himself is treating them, making them, serving them. So by that we're showing that the devotees are the aspects of Lord. The teachers of the scriptures are but manifestation of the Lord. The scripture is the Lord Himself. So he converted that place into Vrindavan, the place of Vishnu. So he requested Mathur shortly after this to invite Vaishnava teachers and devotees from various places. They came, the master celebrated a festival at the Panchavati. Mathur paid 16 rupees to each Vaishnava teacher and 1 rupee to each devotee at the time of festival, thus showing his respect for them. Hriday's wife, Hriday also had a family. He had a wife and child. Hriday's wife died a short time after he had returned from pilgrimage. So after the pilgrimage, some short time after that, Hriday's wife passed away. On account of that event, Hriday's mind was filled with dispassion for some time. So now when some people die in the family, kith and kin, near ones, near dear ones, for some time you will have, the mind will be in state of dispassion, vairagya, renunciation. Temporarily it will be there. When we visit a graveyard, when we visit a cremation ground, so when that burial or the cremation process is going on, while you are in the smashana, the graveyard or the cremation ground, your mind will be in a state of renunciation. You don't want anything. You don't want any object of senses cannot attract you. Even the most beautiful thing cannot attract you. Why? Your mind will be in a state of dispassion. So when somebody kith and kin or somebody very near and dear one dies too, we get that mode of dispassion. So that is called temporary renunciation. You can make use of that to think of God, but that is very temporary. So that is called smashana vairagya or markata vairagya. In Sanskrit, it is called as smashana vairagya or markata vairagya. That is the vairagya or dispassion, renunciation of the cremation ground or the renunciation of the monkey. It is short-lived. So now you have a lot of desires, you have all these things to enjoy this world, but when this happens, these incidences, suddenly, temporarily, you get some renunciation. When we get some diseases, when we get some difficulties, when we get pain, when we get some drawbacks in life, setbacks in life, failures in life, and also when the departing of near and dear ones, then you get temporary vairagya, renunciation. Now, Hriday's wife died a short time after he returned from the pilgrimage. On account of that event, his mind was filled with dispassion for some time. So it's only for some time, but the deep desire is there to enjoy this world. So the dispassion will be there for some time only, temporary. Hriday, we said before, was not a man of contemplation. He was an extrovert. He was not a man of contemplation temperament. His ideal of life was to improve his worldly conditions and spend his life enjoying the pleasures of the world as far as possible. That was his ideal. No renunciation, no contemplation. Though other moods came to him from time to time because of keeping the constant company of the master, because of the company and service of the master, he used to get some good thoughts, and because of the satsanga, he used to be influenced to think of God, he used to get devotion, dispassion. Though other moods came on him from time to time because of keeping the constant company of the master, they would not last long. Whenever there came an opportunity to satisfy his desire for enjoyment, he forgot everything else, pursued the thing longed for, and until it was achieved, no other thought would enter his mind. Therefore, though all the master sadhanas were performed during Hriday state Dakshineshwar, he was very little moved or influenced by the devotional fervor he witnessed in his uncle. However, Hriday truly loved his uncle and did not fail to render whatever service was necessary for him at any time. And as a result of it, he developed great courage, adroitness, and intelligence. The more he heard from holy men about the superhuman nature of his uncle Ramakrishna, and the more he observed the manifestation of divine power in him during his spiritual practices, the greater was his feeling of strength within himself, thanks to his nearness to his dear uncle. His sense of nearness to his master on account of his great service to him, the feeling that master was his own and himself his favorite, made him think that all the spiritual achievements of the master were his too, in a way. Should he ever make an effort to have them, his uncle, by his divine powers, could enable him to attain them. He therefore did not feel that he was under any obligation to think of the hereafterwards. Hereafterwards means here means this life. Hereafterwards, after we give up the body. So he was not bothered about his hereafterwards. He thought that he will get everything because he's living with Ramakrishna. Just if he turn his mind with the grace of Ramakrishna, he can get everything. It's natural that people can think like that. So what will happen in the life of our great person, Hriday, who has served Ramakrishna for so many years? We'll try to look at that in our next class, that is tomorrow. For now, we will stop our discussion because we are approaching our time, 8 o'clock. So now we will give our time to question and answers. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Any questions? Any doubt?
Om Swamiji.
Om Kolanji, please tell.
Swamiji, you mentioned thank you so much for the wonderful discourse. You mentioned the frequency for the Veena. Did you mention 445 hertz?
No, that is the universal standard 440 hertz. In music earlier, see, each one would tune according to their thing at that time. They didn't know the standard. So everybody's instrument would be of different tuning. So now the international music people have done that. The universal tuning should be 440 hertz.
Oh.
So the vibration for all the musical instruments now, earlier if you take a harmonium, if you take something, it would be tuned to different tunes. So now the international community have made a rule that all the musical instruments should be tuned to, that is the international standard, 440 hertz. So now if you take any instrument all over the world, universe, so it is tuned to this thing called 440 hertz. So that it will be easy for all the musicians to, for a symphony or something like that.
Oh, okay. So now the reason I asked is apparently, well, I read somewhere that during Hitler's time, they reduced the frequency to 432 hertz because it makes the soldiers more violent.
Okay. It is 440 hertz.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh.
Maharaj, Aarti here.
Yes, mother.
Speak about Madhura Bhava Upasana, no, Maharaj.
Yes, mother.
Is it same as the Bhavana Upasana, which the Bhavana Upanishad talks, Maharaj? Can you help me in understanding that?
Because I do not know about Bhavana Upanishad. If you can tell what is there in the Bhavana Upanishad, or if you give some reference, then I can tell it, mother.
I recently heard one discourse, Maharaj. There the Swamiji was talking about Bhavana Upasana, where he was telling that everything we should take it as Rama. basically like how we have to become Rama, and the breath we take is his, puja, and the Shayana is his namaskara, and all those things, Maharaj. So I was thinking, is it in the similar way? Is what I was confused about that.
No, mother, that is only an aspect of the Madhura Bhava, but Madhura Bhava means thinking ourselves as the wife, the jiva, the person, the spiritual aspirant as the wife, and the Lord as the husband. So that is Madhura Bhava.
Oh, okay, Maharaj.
So if you start feeling that, I suppose I start feeling myself as Sita, Mother Sita, and then Ramachandra as my husband, then that will be Madhura Bhava. Just like Akka Mahadevi used to think that she herself is the wife and the Lord Shiva is the husband, that is Madhura Bhava. Mirabai did it to Lord Krishna. She thought that she herself was the wife and Lord Krishna is the lover or the husband. So that aspect is called Madhura Bhava, sweet mood.
Oh, okay, Maharaj. Thank you for that clarity, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Any other doubts? Okay, so we will end our session with the closing prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.